So the White House has asked specifically El Paso to not declare a state of emergency. And as Jordan said, they will give them money to offset this, but they don't want that declaration of an emergency. Now, as Jordan said, the Democratic mayor of El Paso knows they've got an emergency situation there. And the transfer of people out of El Paso to New York is based on, as you said, their decision, the decision of the people that came into the United States illegally. That's where they wanted to go, maybe family ties, whatever it might be. But here's what's the irony of all of this, and I think the danger of all of this is, this is now not a Republican versus Democrat issue. This is cities being overrun and not being able to handle the volume of people involved in this. That is the real problem here.
There's some workaround here that they're being able to utilize, where they're utilizing FEMA, so the Federal Emergency Management Funds, to these cities, but they're able to do it by saying cities don't declare states of emergency. We don't want to have to declare a state of emergency. I mean, could you imagine if Joe Biden today, a few weeks after the election, less than 3 weeks now, people are already voting in many states. So, I mean, really, election day begins now because of early voting. And if they had to if they declared a state of emergency on the southern border, that it would kill Democrat chances of holding the Senate. So they're playing games with your taxpayer dollars, but even going after Democrats. That's how far they will go to try and play this game, that there is not actually an emergency. There's not actually a crisis at our southern border.
The cities received $2 million from the federal government. Okay, so that's what they've got. The reality is they've already spent over $8 million, and you know that's underreporting because these things run months in arrears. So you've got an economic crisis that's facing the city, and then you've got a mayor who wants to declare an emergency. The city council, at least 3 members of the city council, said declare the national emergency. That will help get additional funds in. But the reality is, if you look at what's happened, is this becomes a political statement.
They don't want to declare a state of emergency, but now they're having the Democrats, because you got this mayor got pulled out on this because of Eric Adams, the mayor of New York. So the mayor in El Paso had to respond to the 2 Democrat mayors are going after each other, and the Biden administration sitting in the middle and really not doing anything, handing out some resources. But as I said, of the $8 million already spent by El Paso over the funds they have available, they've only been reimbursed $2 million. Now, that's small numbers for the federal government, but it just shows you they got sold this game of, we'll use the federal emergency funds, but don't declare a state of emergency. And by the way, I don't like that these mayors are getting pushed around, but they also are trying to get the funding. So what this mayor said is, I had to make the decision that was best for the city. When the Biden administration came in and said, don't do this, we'll give you this many resources, he's saying, I chose the resources.
Who doesn't think that this is not a national emergency? Is there anybody on any political party that doesn't think this is a national emergency? We don't have control of the border, and the migration crisis is real, and it's going to get worse in the months ahead.
Now, also at the same time, El Paso, this is a Democrat mayor, again, who there's been all this criticism about the buses, going to New York, going to Chicago, going to all these cities. And and Eric Adams, the mayor of New York City, came out attacking the city of El Paso, saying, we didn't ask El Paso to do this. Now, this is the guy who ran as, we're the city for everybody. We're the place to come for everybody. We're the sanctuary. This is the Statue of Liberty city. Okay, well, if you really are, then you should be able to take 17 to 25,000 immigrants into your community pretty easily, into a city that size. But it's causing trouble there. And what the mayor said in El Paso, Dad, was he said, listen, we're not forcing anybody to go there. When we have these people, we've done, I think they've done 196 buses for a total of 9,300 people, and they've asked. So 7,300 wanted to go to New York. So they let them go to New York, and they paid their way to New York.
The problem is we have a porous border. We don't have controls. It's taxing our cities. Look what's happened in El Paso. I mean, a Democratic mayor has put people on buses, sent them to New York because that's where the people wanted to go. And then, the mayor of New York says, what are you doing? This is a Democratic mayor to a Democratic mayor. So I'll tell you what they're doing. They can't handle it. They've gotten $2 million of federal aid. They've already spent $8 million. This is a lot for a local city to handle. And then when they want to declare a national emergency, the Biden administration comes and said, oh, don't do that. It's going to look bad. That's what you're dealing with.